if you've ever had bad PMS, premenstrual syndrome, then you'll know how out of control it can make you feel. Well, for my next guest, she has a form of PMS that is on another level. Now, from the age of 11, Carla Bagsby suffered from anxiety, rage, and irrational behaviour. And as an adult, things got so bad that she tried to take her own life. She was eventually diagnosed with PMDD, which affects 1 in 20 women. Now, Carla joins me now alongside our sexual health nurse, Sarah Melindra, who also has PMDD. Now, I've never heard of this before, but Carla, tell me about your experience. What was it like when you first started your periods, and what was happening to you?
It's only now looking back that I can actually see that I wasn't very normal, sort of thing. I didn't go to school. I couldn't face going to school after I started my periods because of the anxiety and the depression, basically. They diagnosed me with social anxiety, depression, and a mood disorder throughout my adolescence. That I don't think they was really sure what was wrong with me.
Yeah. And this was going in waves then, so you were having...
Yeah.
Which happens with premenstrual syndrome, the kind of, for want of a better word, normal version of it is, there's a certain time in your cycle where your hormones are raging, everything's going mad. But for you, this is on a massive level.
Yeah. So I used to say it was my 2 good weeks and my 2 bad weeks. My 2 good weeks, I was fine. Everything was absolutely fine. Come my bad 2 weeks, everything was just on another level.
And when you say that, what do you mean? What was going on in your head, in your life?
Oh, it was awful. It was the anxiety. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't leave the house some days. Depression, couldn't get out of bed. The anger, the irritability. It started off with bad period pains. So, yeah, it's just debilitating. It really is.
Yeah, and for a long time, you weren't not diagnosed correctly with this, were you? Because everyone, I guess because it's not talked about that much, people didn't really recognise that that's what it was that you had.
No, so it was originally a mood disorder that I had that I got diagnosed with. And then it was PMS eventually. Before then, I ended up in a mother and baby unit after the birth of my son, which was, I'm assuming, due to the fluctuations in hormones, that I just couldn't cope anymore.
That sounds really scary.
Yeah. To me, it's my life. I've lived it. I can only speak about it now. I'm out the other side. But it wasn't nice. It's awful.
And it got to a point where you considered taking your own life?
Yeah. I went into the mother and baby unit for my own safety, yeah.
And this was because you didn't know what was happening, but your hormones were making you think crazy stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. It makes you into a completely different person. For instance, like Jekyll and Hyde.
And what was it like then, getting the diagnosis?
It was good. It was. It was through Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. They have a specialist team there who have researched PMDD, and so they knew. So as when I walked in, they knew, and I felt like I was the first time I was actually heard. Like they knew what was wrong with me, and they knew that there was a treatment plan. But it wasn't until that point that I could get the help I needed.
And how old were you by this point?
23.
So you'd gone, for over a decade.
Yeah.
Just not knowing, and then getting the treatment plan. What has it been like for you now? Like, how's it changed your life? You mentioned you're a mum.
Yeah, I am now. To 2 children. They're lovely. My relationship with them has changed for the better now. I started on Zoladex, which is a form of, it suppresses your hormones, and that was to go with alongside the hysterectomy, to try the hysterectomy. So, and then I have now had a hysterectomy, and I'm in surgical menopause.
So what was that? Because you got the diagnosis after having your 2 children, didn't you? And
yeah.
So that decision then to have a hysterectomy, I mean, that is a massive one. You're young, in your 20s, making this decision, but was it pretty clear cut for you?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. I knew I needed that hysterectomy so I could have a better quality of life. I couldn't live the way I was living, up and down.
Yeah.
It was affecting my parenthood. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you say now,
Yeah.
now you've got a brilliant relationship with your kids and life is much... I can see your face when I said to you about what was it like getting the diagnosis. You suddenly kind of lit up. And I mean, Sarah, I honestly had never heard of this before. PMS, I know and have gone through, but PMDD, this, and you also have it as well. Can you just explain what it is and how it's different to PMS?
So because with PMS and PMDD, they both cause emotional and behavioural changes. And so because of this, it's very difficult to differentiate what's considered a normal change to the normal fluctuation of hormones and what would be considered extreme, so PMDD. And so with PMS, we know that the classic symptoms: mood swings, feeling irritable, a bit teary, a little bit upset, maybe some mild depression. With PMDD, you go through the exact same emotions, except they're on a more extreme and aggressive form of it. So your normal mood swings might cause you to have problems in your relationship. They can have a knock-on effect on personal relationships. It can drive you into a deep depression, and in some extreme cases, such as Carla's, you can even have suicidal feelings about it. Now, the reason why you haven't heard about it is because it's simply not spoken about enough. And because it's really hard to measure what is normal and abnormal, it really just comes down to us, as women who have periods, to be vocal about what we're going through. I mean, to put it into context, I've been a nurse for 16 years and I've specialised in sexual and reproductive health for 11 of those years. And it's not only until 4 or 5 years ago that I discovered myself through social media, I believe it was, and just talking to other women. And then I sort of had that light bulb moment where I thought, this is what I'm experiencing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's really mad that you didn't know that.
Yeah. So
even though you work in the industry, so people are not even talking about it.
Not even talking about it.
In the area of work.
And it's hard to diagnose as well because it can look different each month. So just like you do with PMS, sometimes you may not get anything at all. Other times it can last for 2 days. Other times it could be a week. It could be 2 weeks. And so it can take a long time to make that connection with your cycle and to see that that's the cause. But the best thing to do, if you do feel like you're experiencing PMDD, is to visit your GP. And what they'll ask you to do is to track your symptoms over a couple of months. So they'll ask you to sort of keep a note on your symptoms. And this is the most important part because unlike a physical disability where you can see what the issue is, when it comes to a mental problem or a mental disability, it really just depends on how much information you're willing to share. So the more you can explain to your GP how it has a knock-on effect on your mental health, your personal relationships, because it really can affect every other aspect of your life, and you can really feel hopeless, depressed, suicidal, and just like Carla was saying, it can really be detrimental to your health.
It makes you think, doesn't it, when you think about all the people who've probably suffered over the decades and never known what it was that was creating this hardship in their life. And hormones seem to be such a big part of it.
Such a big part of it, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming in to talk about this, Carla, and lovely to have you here again, Sarah. If you've been affected by anything you've just heard, then do head to our support pages. You can find them at channel4.com/support. Still